Gators Breakdown episode 66 is ready to go. A little surprise episode here. We're going to take the week off, but of course, big kind of breaking news as a report is coming out that quarterback grad transfer from Notre Dame, Malik Zaire, will choose the Florida Gators. I'm your host, David Waters, here on Gators Breakdown. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Not be joined by my co-host. This is kind of an impromptu episode to get the thought out there of Malik Zaire choosing Florida. Hopefully, when it's all said and done, that will be the case here. But co-host Joey and Bill won't join me here. It's kind of Memorial Day weekend. We're going to take the week off. But with everything going on, too big of a story to just let this one go. So Joey and Bill will join. We may try and do an episode sometime this week just because of the big info. Originally, we were not going to do one. But of course, big news like this, and as I know and I have said plenty of times, it is never a dull moment in Gator Nation. So with this report, things just got ramped up a good bit. But remember, you can find all your past episodes of Gators Breakdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just search on those sites or get the links by following us on Twitter at Gators Breakdown and on Facebook. Just search Gators Breakdown. Also, share the show if you like it, please. Leave a review, rate on iTunes, all that good stuff there about Gators Breakdown. Share it out there to the Gator Nation. So as I mentioned, Malik Zaire will choose Florida. And as the report came, a tweet from Alex Wilcox, a reporter at WNDU TV in South Bend, Indiana. Here's the tweet, quote, "Sources tell me former Irish quarterback Malik Zaire is telling people he has chosen Florida. Now just waiting for SEC to change transfer rules." So, of course, we'd still have to wait. SEC meetings are coming up this week. They start on Wednesday. But Florida is one of the schools that is currently penalized by the rule after graduate transfers. Mason Halter and Anthony Harrell did not meet the SEC academic requirements from 2015. But the league should alter the rule. A lot of people around the country, a lot of people around the South, a lot of people at Florida believe that the SEC will alter this rule, and it would clear the way for Malik Zaire to transfer in to Florida. The league is supposed to review the rule at its spring meetings this week that start on Wednesday. And I've even heard around the bush a little bit that the SEC feels they owe Florida one after Florida agreed to help with solving the LSU game last year. But not too long ago, Commissioner Greg Sankey went on record on Pat Dooley's radio show in Gainesville and quote, "We had some waivers last year where we've required our institutions to deal with some components of our transfer rule. I do think we need to look where we've been restrictive in the past because of the absence of national rules and look at reducing some of these restrictions. Remember, this grad transfer rule is an SEC only rule. No other conference in college football has this grad transfer rule where if grad transfers do not finish or meet academic requirements out of school, you're put kind of on probation from future grad transfers coming in." So quote for Greg Sankey again, I am one who would position it as interest in freeing things up without just removing every restraint because I think the restraints have been healthy for us. Sankey, he doesn't want to create the culture of free agency. And that's kind of what these grad transfers kind of turn into in college football, is a free agency, with everybody kind of going left and right. Once they graduate from their original school, if they don't feel like they can go to the NFL or they need to better their careers, they're going to go find a grad program somewhere at another school, and they still get eligibility to play football. And Sankey also said, I look at it now and say we've adjusted to reality. We likely can pull back on some of those internal policies. So it kind of, if you read the tea leaves, and Greg Sankey is kind of saying this rule will be changed. And with the report coming out that I saw Malik Zaire is waiting on, you can best bet Malik Zaire is probably going to be in a Gator uniform. So, the big news, it is big news, and it sends shockwaves to the SEC in the nation in a way, too, because of this rule being changed. And Malik Zaire is a high-profile name, one of the highest-profile grad transfers that has happened here. So, and we'll see what happens. And the most important question and the hot-button topic, what does this mean for the current Gators quarterbacks? mainly Felipe Franks, also Luke Del Rio. What happens here? Is this a shot at Felipe Franks? Is bringing Zaire in a message that maybe Felipe Franks isn't ready? With Luke Del Rio, does he ever take a snap again at Florida? A lot of people believe he still had a shot at earning the starting job. I hate to say it, but if Zaire comes, and a lot of people think Franks can still beat him out, but it will probably be a Zaire Franks battle. More than likely, Luke Del Rio doesn't get many snaps. Maybe late game situations, if there's just two quarterbacks, I still think Franks and I still think Zaire would be in front of him. So, does Del Rio ever take a significant snap at Florida again? That's kind of very, very doubtful. And it's the crazy thing is the so up and down from Gator Nation about what does this mean about Felipe Franks? Does this mean he's not ready? Does this mean he will never be ready? That is not the case. It does not mean he will never be ready. A lot of people believe Felipe Franks was a big-time project, and he didn't have a lot of coaching in high school. He still needs to refine some tools. This gives him, if he can't beat Zaire out, this gives him another year to fine-tune some skills. I'm in the camp where I believe Felipe Franks wins the job anyway. But that's blind faith. That's me just basing it on, in a way, a hope, and in a way, I think he showed enough in spring. And behind closed doors, the last couple of weeks of spring, we heard how much better he was getting, how much better he looked, especially separating himself from Kyle Trask. Where does it go from here, though? Did he show enough to the coaches that they feel confident? Yes, we heard he got better, but is that better good enough to where Jim McElwain and Doug Nussmeier feels he can go to Dallas, game 1 against Michigan, and lead Florida to a victory? You bring Malik Zaire in. Yes, he doesn't have a ton of experience, but he has more experience than Felipe Franks. He's played in some big games. He played in a bowl game against LSU. He's opened up a season against Texas in both of those games where he looked great. It's hard to say what this means for Felipe Franks, just because he's still a project, but I believe we've seen enough to where I feel comfortable taking him to Dallas and letting him go against Michigan. And that brand new defense they're going to be, they got one returning starter on defense. They're replacing 10 guys. This is going to be a new defense for Michigan. So what better situation? Yes, it's a big game, but it's a completely new defense. There's a pretty good situation there for Felipe Franks to come out and do something. But if Malik Zaire, the biggest thing, can he come in June and learn the playbook in 2 months? Learn it in June, July. You go to camp in August, or late July, August. Are you ready in early September? Are you ready to come in and lead a Gator offense that's a pretty complicated offense when you boil it down to it? And I've had people tell me inside the program that they really feel Malik Zaire is a very smart quarterback, that Notre Dame's offense is one of the most complex offense in the nation. He was able to learn that, able to play within that offense. He got injured. His career kind of fell apart from there. It was never the same once he got injured. But a lot of people in the program feel he's a smart, mobile, and quarterback who can make things happen with a lot of talent to show that. So there are people inside the program who really, really like Malik Zaire. But what does it say if Malik Zaire can come in June and lead this Gator offense to where he is named the starter against Michigan? Does that mean he's that good and can learn and is really smart and can put the playbook together and get a rapport with his teammates? Look, one of probably the positions that he was looking at and coming here at Florida is look at all the weapons Florida has. We know that. You go look at the preseason magazines this year, and Florida receiver corps is getting a lot of love. They see the talent there at receiver, even though Florida hasn't had a quarterback. You don't think Malik Zaire sees that as well? You don't think he sees Antonio Callaway and Tyree Cleveland and Brandon Powell and Dre Massey, Kadarius Toney, Freddie Swain, Josh Hammond? I mean, look, guys, there's 7, 8 names there we can list there for the wide receivers. You don't think Malik Zaire knows that? That's probably one of the main reasons he chose Florida over. And the report that's been coming out is he's choosing Florida probably over Texas and Wisconsin. So you look at the weapons Florida has. We've talked about it. You Gator fans know it. There are weapons on this Florida offense. Is he the quarterback to get the weapons the ball? So we'll see. But can he come in June? And if that means he is named starter, does it mean he's that good, or does it mean Felipe Franks still needs a little bit of time? Malik Zaire is just a hair better, but it's not the quarterback that is necessarily going to take this offense off. In the past, we have said Florida only needs an average quarterback to do big things. Well, that was when Florida had an elite defense the last couple of seasons. We saw what an average quarterback. Don't get me wrong. Will Grier was not great. He was average on his way to being better. But we saw with an average quarterback and a great elite defense what Jim McElwain is capable of. Well, I believe Malik Zaire can be that average quarterback. But does he need to be better than average with an inexperienced defense? This defense will still be very good. I'm on record to saying that now. This defense will be very good. But will it be good enough to make up for an average quarterback? Does he need to be better than average? There are going to be times, and look, game one is probably one of those. He needs to be better than average. Whether it be Felipe Franks, whether it be Malik Zaire, one of those guys need to be better than average. Can he come in June, in 2 or 3 months, learn the playbook, and be better than average? That's where the question comes for me. I'm not sure if that's the case. And I've been on record as saying, I've been on Bill King's show the last couple of weeks, and he's brought up this Malik Zaire situation. And the big thing, I think, is if Malik Zaire is named starting quarterback for Florida, I'm less excited than if Felipe Franks is named starter. And I only say that is I'm kind of giving Zaire props both ways here. If he wins the job, okay, you beat out Felipe Franks. I'm ready to see what you can do. But if Felipe Franks can still beat out Malik Zaire, if Malik Zaire comes in and Felipe Franks is still named the starter, that means I already know Felipe Franks has beat out one at least average quarterback. And that means he's at least average, a little bit of step above average, or pretty good in Jim McElwain and Doug Nussmeier's eyes. How much does that mean to some of you guys out there? I know there's not a lot of confidence in what Jim McElwain and Doug Nussmeier have done. But this quarterback situation with these two leading, Franks and Zaire, is much better than what Florida has had in any of the recent seasons. So I'm at least saying Florida's at least getting an average quarterback, at least something they can take to Michigan and feel confident in. So if Zaire comes in and wins, I'm less excited, but at least I think he's at least average, and we'll see what happens. If Felipe Franks wins the job, he has beat a pretty good quarterback in a quarterback competition and is ready to build and lead this Florida offense. So, of course, we're on Twitter, and it is crazy on Twitter today. But we've talked to fans out there. We call ourselves the kind of the People's Gators podcast. We love interacting with you guys out there, and Joey, co-host of he and I went back and forth on Twitter, and Joey, about a month or so ago when we had another show about Malik Zaire, and come out and said Joey has some sources at Florida as well, and he has heard the coaches aren't as confident in Felipe Franks as many have led to believe that there is a reason they're going after Malik Zaire, and that's because they don't have confidence in Felipe Franks. So, Joey said he's Malik Zaire is not going to be handed the job, but he's not coming to UF without an assumption that he's the guy. He believes that he's reportedly chosen Florida over Texas and Wisconsin. He thinks there was a wink-wink agreement between Mac and Zaire. So, there's different ways to look at it. Like I said, I have some sources close to the situation as well who feel very highly about Malik Zaire and how smart he is and how he can come in and be a playmaker for this offense. So there are people around the program who really feel Malik Zaire is a difference maker, who can be a guy to lead this Gator offense for two big things. You may even get 2 years out of him. I think they're still waiting to hear about that, but this may not be the only year you get Malik Zaire. So if he comes in and shows something look, he'll be the quarterback for 2 seasons. Or if he has a big year this year, maybe he makes the jump to the NFL. Hopefully we're not having this Malik Zaire, Felipe Franks conversation May 28th in 2018. So hopefully, it separates itself one way or the other. But that was some big news that came out. As I mentioned, the report from Alex Wilcox up in South Bend, Indiana, sources telling him that Malik Zaire is telling people he has chosen Florida and now waiting for the SEC to change its transfer rules. So, guys, that was pretty much it. You got my thoughts on it and kind of what it means for the Florida program right now. It's not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing whatsoever. Florida will get a good quarterback out of this. Is it enough? We'll see. It will be very exciting to watch. It will make for maybe what was going to be a boring preseason don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be boring. We're all ready to see what Felipe Franks can do. But now more than likely, it's going to be a Zaire Franks battle. Maybe it's not even settled by game 1. Maybe both play Michigan. Maybe that's the game that separates the two. I'd rather one separate himself, but it's not really going to happen that way. Felipe Franks is going to get every chance, I believe, to prove he can be the guy. So it looks like I would think, guys, it's going to be they're going to be splitting the 1 reps, and that's what I don't like. I don't like going into fall camp where you're splitting reps. Yes, Will Greer and Treon Harris did it. And yes, Michael Wayne drugged that on for as long as he possibly could. Hopefully that's not the case here. But the only way it's not going to be is if Zaire comes out and looks really, 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 really great week 1 and week 2 of fall camp, or looks really, really, really bad the first 2 weeks of fall camp. So it's going to be an exciting camp. Of course, we won't know. It's Jim McElwain's. It's his cards to hold right now. There's going to be a couple of topics going into that Michigan game, and it'd be interesting to see if one of these quarterbacks is named starter going into that game, and if Antonio Callaway is playing in that game. So there's going to be a lot of gamesmanship on Jim McElwain's part going into this Michigan game with a quarterback situation and a Antonio Callaway situation. So, of course, as I mentioned, never a dull moment in Gator Nation. And this just threw all the preseason magazines pretty much in the air right now. Almost all the main ones are out right now. They didn't have, of course, this Malik Zaire situation in it. So everything you read in these preseason magazines about the quarterbacks can be pretty much washed away right now. What you're seeing there, yes, they'll be right with their probably opinions on Franks, but a lot of them were still putting out their issues before this situation came out. So I think Phil probably still has time to get it in his magazine, but all the other ones, Athlon, Lindy's, Street Smith, Sporting News, and all that, they won't have this Malik Zaire stuff in there. So we'll see. We'll see if they kind of revise, if they come out with a revision on their websites or something about how they maybe East shakes out because of this Malik Zaire report. So, guys, thanks for listening here on this impromptu episode of Gators Breakdown. It's the episode 66 here, where we talk about Malik Zaire more than likely choosing the Florida Gators once the SEC grad rule transfer rule gets overturned at the SEC spring meeting. So I'm your host here on Gators Breakdown, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. And my 2 co-hosts, Joey and Bill, you can find them on Twitter as well. Joey at JoeyV_SEC Sports, and Bill Sykes at Real B Sykes. We will be talking about this a lot on social media. Shoot us your thoughts. Believe me, we'll be sure to get them. We'll be sure to read them and give you our thoughts there. Since I'm by myself, I can't really read a lot of the comments on YouTube and Twitter going on live right now. But guys, I'll go back out and look and reply as soon as I can. So thanks for listening to this episode of Gators Breakdown, and we'll check you guys later.